The school was a massacre. Students killed in seconds. Blood everywhere. Screams fading. Inside one classroom, Jinwoo's sister was cornered. The orc chieftain grabbed her by the face, lifted her like nothing. She choked, barely conscious, and just as he raised his axe, the wall exploded. Dust. Silence. Jinwoo stepped through. He knelt beside her. "You okay?" She nodded, shaking. He stood, faced the monsters, his voice calm but final. "Nobody move." Jinwoo was just going about his day, probably planning his next dungeon raid or taking a rare breather, when this well-dressed, very American guy shows up. Introduces himself as Adam White, a senior official from something called the Federal Bureau of Hunters. Yeah, federal, like the FBI, but for people who kill monsters. Naturally, Jinwoo's like, "Wait, who are you again?" Because he's never dealt with them before. Adam starts explaining that it took a lot to even find him. He even went as far as Jinwoo's office, apparently left a business card with Jinho. Jinwoo kind of nods, vaguely remembering Jinho mentioning something about some foreign guy sniffing around. But then Jinwoo hits him with the obvious question, "Why me?" That's when Adam drops it. He's got information, the kind you can't get from any guild, country, or other government. Just them. Just the Bureau. And get this, they want to give it to Jinwoo. Now Jinwoo's not someone you can bribe or flatter. So naturally, he's suspicious. Why would a major foreign agency just offer up their best secrets like a free sample? Adam explains that their bureau has something to gain too. They keep tabs on the big players in the awakened world. And Jinwoo? He's no longer just one of the strong. He's special. Apparently, Jinwoo's massacre of monsters during the Jeju Island raid made such waves that the deputy director himself wanted to meet him. And yeah, they already had a car waiting. Jinwoo was still weighing it all, standing there with the car door open. "Sure," he says, "but how do I know any of this is even real?" Adam doesn't push, just smiles and tells him to think about it. But as Jinwoo's about to walk away, Adam tosses out a word he's never heard before. "Upgrader." That stops Jinwoo cold. Adam explains it's a person, an awakened one, who can literally boost another awakened being's powers. Like, permanently. Naturally, Jinwoo's curiosity goes from 0 to 100. He slips into the passenger seat without another word, and off they go. Fast forward a bit, they arrive at this sleek, probably government-grade facility. Adam walks him in and introduces him to Michael Connor, the deputy director of the Bureau. Classic American type. Direct, shakes hands, smiles once, then boom, lays down immigration papers. All signed, sealed, delivered. Jinwoo just has to say yes, and boom, instant US citizenship. But Jinwoo's not biting. He cuts right to it. "Tell me about the upgrader." Connor doesn't skip a beat. He smiles, presses a button, and calls her in. And that's when Norma Selner enters. Middle-aged, calm, very unassuming. She doesn't look like a fighter, doesn't feel like a magic user either, but Jinwoo can tell right away. She's awakened, just different. She starts explaining. Her power? It's real, but not flashy. She doesn't summon anything or explode anything. What she does is remove the limits. See, every awakened has a ceiling, some invisible point they can't cross no matter how hard they train. She can lift that ceiling, but it's not easy. Takes energy, recovery time. That's why only 3 or 4 people a year even get the chance. 3 or 4 in the entire world. Jinwoo's brain is already spinning. She lays it out. Through a 3-step process, an awakened hunter can gain a 20-30% increase in power. That kind of buff? It's insane. That's basically like rewriting your character stats in real life. And suddenly it clicks. That's why someone like Hwang Dong-soo moved to the US, even after all the hate he got for leaving Korea. He wasn't chasing money or fame. He was chasing this. Jinwoo doesn't say much, but internally, he's doing the math. He also realizes, if word of this power gets out, it'll cause chaos. Connor nods like he's reading Jinwoo's mind. That's why they keep Norma under serious protection, and only offer her powers to the ones they really want on their side. Then Connor leans in with the pitch. "We want you, Jinwoo, and we're willing to give you priority treatment. Best guild placement, contract negotiations, benefits, all of it." But Jinwoo's still skeptical. He doesn't believe in getting something for nothing. That's not how the world works. Norma, though, just smiles. She's heard it all before. "Once you feel it, you'll be the one asking for more," she tells him. Then she reaches out, gently takes Jinwoo's wrist, and asks him to look into her eyes. He does. Connor, watching this like a proud recruiter, thinks, gotcha. He's confident. Once Jinwoo experiences stage 1, he'll be hooked. But something happens that none of them expected. As Selner peers into Jinwoo's soul to activate her power, everything goes dark. She's no longer looking at a hunter. She's trapped, like she's been dropped into a void. She can't feel her feet, can't see anything. She starts to panic, until she sees it, a shadow. Something's in there with her. and then it opens its eyes and stares directly at her. So what could possibly shake a woman who claims to see the limits of humanity? This wasn't a man with a ceiling. This was a monster without a roof. The woman screamed, and not just a little gasp. She straight up fell off her chair, her face pale, her whole body trembling. Whatever she saw in there, it shattered her, and the two agents standing guard, they lost it. Guns out, safety off. They aimed their weapons at Jinwoo like they were dealing with a threat too dangerous to process. And yeah, Jinwoo didn't flinch, not even a twitch. But Michael Connor? He went pale. "Stand down!" he yelled, his voice cracking through the tension like a whip. "Do you even know who that is?" He reminded them. If they'd pulled this stunt in front of someone like Thomas Andre or Liu Jigang, they'd be dead before they blinked. The agents froze, instantly realizing the level of dumb they just reached. They dropped their weapons and rushed to help Norma, who was still shaking like she'd seen death itself. Connor turned to Jinwoo and bowed, deeply, like full apology mode. Jinwoo just stood there, calm, trying to make sense of what even happened. He waved it off. "It's fine. But let's be real, it wasn't fine, and Connor knew it." He tore into the agents with a scolding that probably still echoes in their nightmares. They nodded silently, ashamed and rattled. Then Connor turned to Norma, kneeling beside her. The poor woman was drenched in sweat, barely holding herself together. Her hands shook, her breathing was uneven. Clearly, something inside her broke. Michael realized this wasn't the time to keep talking about paperwork or power-ups. "We'll reschedule," he told Jinwoo, trying to keep the situation from spiraling any further. Jinwoo gave a simple nod and followed Adam White back out, but he kept glancing over his shoulder, still trying to understand what exactly had just happened. Back inside, Connor stayed with Norma, waiting until she finally caught her breath. Her voice was shaky, but the words she said next, they were chilling. "He's a king," she whispered. Michael blinked. "King?" She nodded. "Not just strong. Not like a national-level hunter. Something else. Something beyond what I've ever seen." She paused, pressing her hand to her chest like she was still trying to steady her heartbeat. "When I looked into him, something looked back." Connor stared at her. "You mean Jinwoo?" "No," she whispered. "Not him. It was inside him." She described it as an infinite darkness, a void so deep it had its own gaze, a gaze that locked onto her, like a predator watching prey. "And here's the real kicker. There's no limit," she said. "That man has no ceiling." Meanwhile, over in Korea, Go Gun-hee, the chairman of the Korean Hunter Association, was sitting alone in his office, deep in thought. He couldn't stop thinking about Min Byung-gyu, the healer who died during the Jeju Island raid. Even though Min Byung-gyu had retired before that mission, he came back and sacrificed himself for the others. And that memory, it hurt Gun-hee, because deep down he knew more sacrifices were coming, maybe sooner than he'd like. That's when the phone rang. Gun-hee snapped out of his thoughts and picked it up. Urgent voice on the other end. "There's a B-rank gate right in the middle of the street, blocking traffic, public safety nightmare, that whole deal." Gun-hee tensed. B-rank gates aren't usually that bad, but still, they're not something you send amateurs to clean up. He was about to call a big-name guild when it hit him. Jinwoo had just opened an office nearby. Perfect timing. Back on the road, Jinwoo was behind the wheel, stuck in traffic. His mind wasn't even on the road, though. It was still circling around Norma Selner. He could tell she'd been horrified. But why? Before he could think further, his phone buzzed. He glanced down. "Go Gun-hee." Jinwoo answered, and the old chairman didn't waste a second. He told him about the gate, asked if he could handle it. Jinwoo was like, "Can I just do that? No paperwork or anything?" Gun-hee chuckled. "I am the chairman. Consider that your permission slip." Jinwoo laughed. Fair enough. He pulled over, got out of the van, and started walking toward the portal. You could feel the monotrail like a pulse in the air. Reporters were already circling the scene like vultures, and the police were trying to keep order, while association staff secured the perimeter. As Jinwoo approached, a woman, an association employee, stepped in front of him. Totally official, clipboard and all. "Hey, you can't just..." Then she looked up and froze. "Wait, you're Sung Jinwoo?" She wasn't the only one who noticed. The crowd began buzzing. People pulled out their phones. The S-rank hunter had arrived. Still, the employee wasn't giving up. "Even you can't enter a gate without authorization and a full party." Jinwoo raised an eyebrow. "This again?" He pulled out his phone. "Here, talk to someone you can't ignore." He handed her the phone with Gun-hee still on the line. The woman's face went pale. She nodded, stammered out a, "Yes, sir," and handed the phone back. Jinwoo gave her a slight nod and walked past, entering the gate without hesitation. But before she could exhale in relief, the gate changed. It flashed red. The black surface turned blood crimson. Gasps spread through the crowd. People screamed. Reporters dropped their cameras. Someone shouted, "It's a red gate!" The woman's mouth dropped. Her hands trembled. She stared at the portal and whispered to herself, "Did I just jinx it?" Inside, Jinwoo stepped through, and instantly, the air changed. Heavy, silent, wrong. A red gate doesn't let you out until the job is done. No backup, no escape. And Jinwoo? He just cracked his neck, clenched his fists, and walked forward. So what exactly did Norma Selner see in Jinwoo? She saw the abyss, and that abyss was staring back. As Jinwoo stepped deeper into the red gate, with shadows swarming behind him and tension thick in the air, his thoughts, of all things, drifted home, specifically to his mom. He remembered a quiet conversation they'd had not long ago. She had looked at him with that calm, loving expression only a mother can give, and said something that stuck with him. "I know this wasn't your choice, but maybe this is your path." She wasn't angry that he became an S-rank hunter. She understood. His dad had been the same. Started as a firefighter, became a hunter, risked everything to save lives. That was the man she fell for. And that same fire? She saw it in Jinwoo too, but she warned him, gently, not to lose himself, not to burn out. Jinwoo clenched his fists. "I won't overdo it," he told himself. "This isn't too much for me." And just like that, the gate opened wide, and the battlefield came to life. The Shadow Army exploded into action. Igris, Beru, Tank, the whole gang, tearing through waves of beasts like a storm. Jinwoo stood tall in the center, commanding them with surgical precision, like a general made of steel. But he knew something most hunters didn't talk about. Being a hunter doesn't mean you're the predator. Not always. Sometimes the roles reverse. Sometimes you get hunted. That's the rule of the hunt. It never ends. And Jinwoo? He had no plans of stopping. The first wave? Gone. Crushed. Not even worth breaking a sweat. But he wasn't done. He locked eyes on the deeper part of the dungeon. "Let's end this today." Then came the real boss. A hulking beast stepped forward, flanked by his personal guard, his voice booming with arrogance. He looked around, searching for whoever had dared to cut down his forces. He sneered at Jinwoo, this small intruder, and laughed that a human could come this far, even speak their language. But then, silence. The boss called for his army. Nothing. He called again, louder. Still nothing. That's when the panic started to settle in. What he didn't know was that Jinwoo's shadows had already wiped out his entire force on the way in. The ambush the boss was counting on, already dead. Jinwoo smirked. "Small, huh? That's cute." Then he gave a subtle nod, and shadows rose up from the forest floor like wraiths. They'd been lying in wait, and now it was over. The beasts didn't even have time to react before they dropped one by one, skewered and ripped apart. It was clean, precise, brutal. The boss's jaw dropped. He turned, desperate now, and summoned his hidden troops. Magic beasts grown from the trees themselves. They cracked through the bark, rising up, only to get sniped. Beru was already there. One claw, one headshot, over and over. Jinwoo stepped forward, the aura around him thick as lead. His army closed in, unstoppable. And the boss? He froze. His confidence was gone. The fear in his eyes said it all. He knew he was outmatched. Jinwoo raised a hand. "Go!" And that was it. The shadows surged. Beru led the charge, faster than lightning, followed by Igris and Tusk. The battlefield turned into a bloodstorm of claws and steel. The beasts were powerful, but not this powerful. Jinwoo's army didn't just kill, they dominated. Two giant centaur beasts tried to rush Jinwoo directly, weapons raised, charging like tanks. But that's when Tank, the colossal shadow bear, charged back. He slammed into them like a train, tearing them apart in seconds. The boss let out a gut-wrenching scream. He called for his children, but it was too late. Beru came flying, claws extended, piercing the boss's chest. Igris swept in, slicing the beast's arm clean off in one elegant move. The boss collapsed, but Tusk wasn't finished. He activated Hymn of Giants, swelling in size, then dropped inverse gravity, slamming the boss into the earth like a meteor strike. The whole field shook with the impact. When the dust settled, the boss was broken, bleeding, barely conscious. Jinwoo walked up slowly, like death wearing sneakers. He crouched beside the twitching creature. "You can end this fast," he said coldly. "Just tell me what I want to know." But the beast said nothing, just coughed blood. Jinwoo narrowed his eyes. The system again. It's blocking him. This wasn't the first time. He'd dealt with this before. Enemies too far under the system's control to speak. No matter how hard he pressed. He sighed. "Fine. I'll find out another way." Then he did something unusual. He opened his inventory and pulled out a key. Not just any key. A cursed random box key. The one he got after defeating King Baran, the demon monarch, in the demon castle. It had been sitting there for a while. No description, no info, just waiting. But after hitting level 100 during the Jeju Island raid, the system had finally said something. The key wasn't just a drop, it was a door. So what kind of power lies hidden behind a key that even the system kept secret? Until now, we're about to find out. And something tells Jinwoo, this key changes everything. The system had finally provided details. The required conditions have been fulfilled. The key unlocks the entrance to the Kartanon Temple. It can be used at the designated gate. The location of the designated gate will be revealed after the allotted time passes. And then it hit him. Kartanon Temple. The name echoed like a whisper through time. Memories came flooding back. Cold stone walls, crumbling statues, the towering double dungeon, and that stone slate clutched in the hands of a statue. This wasn't just any place. This was where it all began. The system was sending him back. Not randomly, not by chance, intentionally. Back to the dungeon that had nearly killed him. The same dungeon that had shattered his weak self and created the man he'd become. But this time, it wasn't about survival. This time, he was the storm. Jinwoo clenched his fist around the key. If this is where it all started, then I'm coming full circle. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't hesitating. Wait for me, he muttered. I'll be there soon. Meanwhile, back at the office, Yu Jinho was in full bodyguard mode, but online. He sat glued to his computer screen, eyes narrow, scanning forums, articles, and comment threads like a hawk tracking prey. Any negative comment about Jinwoo? Screenshot, report, delete, click, click, tap, type, wipe sweat. He was fighting an invisible war to protect his best friend's name, and he wasn't backing down. Then suddenly, busy? Jinho nearly jumped out of his skin. He spun around, startled, and saw Jinwoo standing behind him, calm as ever, dressed in full hunting gear. Oh, Hyungnim! I didn't hear you come in. Jinwoo raised an eyebrow. Everything okay? Yeah, no problems, Jinho replied quickly, still catching his breath. Then he squinted at Jinwoo's outfit. Wait, did you just come back from a gate? Jinwoo nodded casually. Had to grab a few cores. We'll need funds for the guild. Jinho's eyes lit up. Guild funds. That meant salaries, supplies, stability. He grinned. So we're good on the financial side? For now, Jinwoo shrugged. Then all that's left is finding one more member. Jinwoo blinked. We need 3? Yeah, minimum for registration. And that's when Jinho brought up the real crisis, the guild name. He launched into a list of weird combinations. Sungyu Guild, Wooho Guild, even Jinjin Guild. Jinwoo listened, nodded politely, and then said, "What about Solo Play Guild?" Jinho froze. Are you joking? Jinwoo was dead serious. Jinho sighed. Jinwoo might be a god-tier hunter, but comedy was not his strong suit. Still, there was something endearing about how bluntly Jinwoo said it, like he genuinely thought it was cool. Before they could argue more, someone knocked on the door. They both paused. Jinho stood, walked over, and opened it. A woman stood there. Long blonde hair, elegant posture, warm but guarded eyes. Hae-In. Jinho's jaw dropped. Jinwoo looked equally stunned. Are you looking for someone? Jinho asked. She nodded calmly. Is this Hunter Sung Jinwoo's guild? It is, Jinho said. Then she stepped forward. I want to join. Jinwoo blinked like she'd just said she wanted to buy a timeshare in the underworld. You want to join my guild? He asked. Hae-In nodded. He stared at her. Was this something the Hunter Association arranged? Did she get kicked from her old guild? Nope, she denied all of it. So Jinwoo asked the obvious question. Why? She hesitated, clearly rattled. Solo Play. Is that really the name? Jinwoo? Deadpan. Yeah, we agreed on it. We did not, Jinho shouted from behind, but Jinwoo just ignored him. Close enough. Jinwoo squinted at Hae-In. Her heartbeat, her breathing, the way her eyes shifted. She was hiding something. He asked again, why this guild? You could go anywhere. She looked down, didn't answer. Jinwoo reminded her. It had been 2 years since her awakening. She had to be under contract still, right? I'll pay the penalty, she said. He blinked. You'll what? I don't need compensation, she added quietly. This made no sense. No money, no fame, no benefits. Why? She stayed silent, head bowed. But inside, her heart was racing. She couldn't say it aloud, that from the moment she first met him, something about him drew her in. Not just his strength, but his presence, his scent, his steadiness. On Jeju Island, when she thought she was going to die, the last image in her mind was him. And when she woke up in the helicopter, alive, the first name on her lips had been his. She didn't want a guild. She wanted him, by her side. Jinwoo didn't say it out loud, but he remembered how distant she'd been at the funeral, how her eyes followed him differently. He knew now. She'd been planning this. So why would Korea's top female hunter want to join a no-name, one-man guild? Because for her, it wasn't about the guild. It was about him. When Jinwoo pressed her for a reason, Hae-In finally gave a clean, practiced answer. Something safe. I just want a simpler life. Yeah, right. Jinwoo knew it was a deflection, but he didn't call her on it. Instead, he watched her quietly while Jinho chimed in, offering his own perspective. Think about the pressure she's under, he said. She's what, 22? 23 at most? And she's already one of the strongest hunters in the country. The Hunters Guild probably won't let her go easy. Jinwoo understood. Being S-rank was a double-edged sword. People either worshipped you or used you. And after what the guild went through in the Jeju raid, yeah, Hae-In had probably seen hell. But understanding didn't mean he could just let her in. He needed to test her, so he told her there would be an entrance exam. Hae-In blinked. That wasn't on the application. Jinwoo shrugged coolly. Oversight on Jinho's part. Before she could respond, Jinwoo sent Jinho out to fetch snacks and tea, giving them some privacy. The moment the word test left his mouth, Hae-In's face changed. The calm, polite exterior dropped, and something sharper took its place. She wanted the test. Jinwoo narrowed his eyes, trying to tell if she was bluffing. But no, her gaze was locked in, steady, fierce. He told her she'd be fighting one of his summons, his strongest. Still no hesitation. "Let's do it now," she said. They stood, almost in sync. Jinwoo nodded. "We'll use the association's gymnasium." But it was far, and Jinwoo had a theory to test. "Stay close," he said. "We'll take a shortcut." Hae-In barely had time to react before Jinwoo stepped close, really close. Her breath caught in her throat as he reached forward. "Ready?" he asked. Then in a blink, they disappeared. The room went quiet. A moment later, Jinho returned, with tea and snacks in hand, and stopped dead in his tracks. In their place stood a very confused high orc shadow soldier, who promptly snatched the cookies and started munching. Jinho sighed. "I was gone for 2 minutes." Inside the shadow exchange, Jinwoo and Hae-In traveled through the void. He studied the process carefully, so this is how it works. The entry point was any shadow, the destination tied to one of his soldiers. The whole thing operated like a portal system, only cooler. Only a 3-hour cooldown, and now confirmed, he could bring passengers. They reappeared inside the gym. The lights flickered on automatically, triggered by their mana. The air was still, sterile, but buzzing with tension. Hae-In looked around, wide-eyed. The speed, the silence, the sheer power of Jinwoo's magic, it amazed her. Jinwoo didn't waste time. "Let's begin." Hae-In suddenly froze. "I forgot my weapon," Jinwoo smirked. "Gonna grab your pickaxe again?" She blushed, remembering the awkward weapon she once used. "No," he chuckled, shaking his head. "Just teasing." She marched toward the weapons locker, used her hunter's license to unlock the door, and scanned the shelves. Most were training grade, but she chose a sword close to her own in weight and length. "It's not perfect," she said, "but monsters never fight you on your terms anyway." Jinwoo nodded slowly. "Fair point." Then he summoned a shadow, a quiet movement from his feet, and from it, Igris emerged. The silent knight, the best swordsman in Jinwoo's army, towering, calm, deadly. Jinwoo laid out the rules. Defeat Igris, and you pass. Surrender, and you fail. No other win condition. He didn't summon Beru. That would have been overkill. Beru was a nightmare. This needed to be a duel, not trauma. Hae-In stepped forward and readied herself. Jinwoo paused. "Turn around a sec." She blinked but obeyed. He reached into his inventory and pulled out something special. The Demon Monarch's sword. A gift from a fallen king. He handed it to Igris. Now it was a real test. Hae-In turned back, then stopped cold. Igris was holding a different weapon now. A blade that crackled with blue electricity, ominous and humming with power. Then, boom! The fight began. Igris didn't wait. His blade sliced the air, sending a lightning bolt straight at her like a sniper shot. Hae-In barely dodged, her body twisting midair like a cat. The bolt slammed into the wall behind her, scorching it black. Jinwoo raised an eyebrow. That strike would have killed most hunters on contact. She landed, gripped her sword tighter, and charged. Silent, focused. This wasn't a formality anymore. This was real. And Igris? He moved forward to meet her, sword raised. He wasn't pulling punches. So what would make Korea's top S rank voluntarily duel a shadow without her own weapon? She wasn't there to prove her strength. She was there to prove she belonged at his side. The sound of metal clashing rang out like thunder as Hae-In's sword met his in a shower of sparks. Every strike from her carried serious weight, but even Jinwoo had to admit, she was better than he expected. Meanwhile, high above in the Hunter Association building, Chairman Go Gun-hee was quietly reviewing classified reports from the top floor of his office, when something outside the window caught his eye. The gym lights were on. Odd, that facility was supposed to be empty today. Gun-hee buzzed his secretary. "Check if the gym was reserved." A moment passed before the answer came. "No reservations, sir." Gun-hee frowned. "Show me the surveillance feed." The monitor flickered, and suddenly he was watching Jinwoo and Hae-In sparring? His brow rose slightly, then his lips curled into a knowing smile. "Ah. So that's what this is." He remembered Hae-In showing unusual interest in Jinwoo after Jeju Island. Maybe it wasn't just admiration. With a soft chuckle, he ordered the cameras turned off. "Mark it as a maintenance check," he said, grinning like a proud grandfather as he turned back to his paperwork. Then the floor trembled. He paused, but didn't even look up. The smile stayed on his face. Youth, he thought. What a force of nature. Back at the gym, Jinwoo had to admit it. Even after giving Igris the Demon Monarch's sword, Hae-In was pushing him back, and when Igris finally crashed into the wall with a resounding thud, Jinwoo stepped in to call it. But Hae-In wasn't done. She lowered her blade and asked, dead serious, "Was that really your strongest summon?" Jinwoo hesitated. "No," he admitted quietly. "Then summon it," she demanded. He tried to reason with her. "You could get hurt." She didn't flinch. "Then I'll take that risk." That look in her eyes, it was fire. She wasn't asking. She needed to prove something. So Jinwoo gave in. He raised his hand and summoned Beru. The temperature dropped. Out of the shadows rose the towering, ant-like monarch, Beru, his most dangerous soldier, once built to kill hunters. He emerged like a nightmare with glowing eyes and claws sharp enough to split steel. Beru lowered his head, awaiting orders. "Defeat her," Jinwoo said, voice firm. "But do not hurt her." Beru's expression darkened with resolve. Then he roared. The lights overhead exploded. Glass shattered. The room plunged into eerie darkness as a wave of mana burst outward like a shockwave. The sheer force of Beru's scream was enough to shake the floor. Hae-In froze. The aura alone was suffocating. She looked into Beru's eyes and felt pure, predatory malice. He extended his claws, like blades forged from death itself. Jinwoo's voice cut through the tension. "Don't forget, don't hurt her." Beru instantly pulled back, suppressing his claws with a low growl of obedience. Hae-In saw an opening. She braced herself to strike, and then Beru vanished. She gasped. He was behind her. The same trick. She'd seen it before. Not again. She spun and launched a rapid series of slashes, moving like a whirlwind. Her sword blurred in the air, aiming at vital points, looking for even the smallest mistake. But Beru? He didn't move. Not once. He just stood there, dodging every strike with millimeter-level precision. No wasted movement. No theatrics, just brutal, mechanical efficiency. His body weaved between her attacks like water flowing around rocks. Her strikes were fast, deadly, but every time she swung, Beru was already somewhere else. She aimed for his throat. He leaned back a hair. She went low. He floated above the blow. It wasn't just skill. It was a gulf between them. Hae-In's mind raced. How is this possible? Beru wasn't even human. He wasn't a monster either. Just a shadow, a minion, a leftover echo from a creature that no longer existed. And Jinwoo commands this thing like it's nothing? Then Beru moved closer. Suddenly, she could smell him, the stench of death, the heavy scent of something not alive. She recoiled instinctively, her vision blurred. All she saw was Beru's open mouth coming toward her, wide as a cave. She screamed, and then, boom! A roar exploded from his lungs. Not an attack, just raw force. The magical pressure alone sent her flying backward, slamming her into the far wall. Her legs gave out for a second as she caught her breath. Jinwoo grimaced. He hadn't meant for it to go this far. "Are you done?" he asked quietly. But Hae-In stood up, shaking, scuffed, but still fighting. "I can keep going." Jinwoo's eyes narrowed. Why? Why push this far? She knew she couldn't win. And Beru? He was barely holding back. Jinwoo could feel it. His soldier was suppressing the urge to kill. Beru was a predator, a purebred apex hunter. Even now, his instincts were flaring. And then Hae-In aimed for a weak spot. Jinwoo's heart stopped. Beru's aura spiked. To Beru, this was a line no prey should ever cross. So what happens when a predator is ordered to hold back, but its instincts say otherwise? You'd better pray he remembers who gave the order, before instinct takes over. The moment Beru's instincts kicked in, the world snapped into motion. His claws extended like black spears, and he lunged, not to intimidate, but to kill. Hae-In moved on instinct, dodging low, her body twisting mid-air. She was fast, ridiculously fast, but not faster than Beru's bloodlust. Their eyes locked. In that frozen instant, Hae-In knew this wasn't a spar anymore. This was survival. She gritted her teeth and called on her strongest move, sword dance. Her body flowed like water, her blade slicing brilliant arcs through the air, graceful and deadly. Each movement was art, elegance, and death in harmony. The space lit with flickers of steel and sparks as her strikes collided with Beru's claws. But something in Beru's aura had changed. He wasn't amused anymore. He was done playing. With a single swipe, Beru caught her blade mid-swing and shattered it with his bare hand. Half of the sword clattered to the ground, but Hae-In didn't blink. Her eyes burned cold. She tightened her grip on what remained and poured her mana into it. The fractured blade began to glow, a radiant light bursting forth as she activated a skill she'd never dared use before. Sword of Light. Jinwoo's eyes widened. Hae-In didn't wait. She launched herself forward, blade first, aimed straight for Beru's chest, and that's when it happened. Beru's mind glitched. The command Jinwoo had given, defeat her without harm, was erased. Instead, an older command, a darker one, etched deep from his time serving the Ant Queen, flashed in his brain. Annihilate all enemies. Hae-In was no longer a test subject. She was prey. Beru's claws extended again, twice as long this time. His body pulsed with killing intent as he leapt toward her with lethal precision. Hae-In froze. Her instincts screamed to move, but her body refused. Her eyes squeezed shut as she braced for death. And then, crack! A hand, Jinwoo's hand, caught Beru's claws inches from her throat. The gym shook with the force of the block. Beru's eyes met his master's. The look in Jinwoo's eyes wasn't anger, it was disappointment. Beru staggered back, and then, like a child who'd broken a rule, he dropped to his knees. "Forgive me, my king," he whispered, trembling. Jinwoo didn't speak, not at first. He turned to Hae-In, who had collapsed, breathing hard, her limbs trembling. This test had gone too far. He stared at her, confused. "Why push yourself this far for a nameless guild?" He asked aloud. "Why are you doing this? Why are you risking your life for me?" She didn't answer. The silence was unbearable. He asked again. "Is there something else?" He searched her expression. "Do you like me?" The moment the words left his mouth, even he felt how absurd it sounded. But Hae-In's eyes widened, just for a second, and in that flicker, he saw the truth. She didn't speak, just nodded, faintly, and that was it. No grand confession, no dramatic music, just quiet truth, and two people realizing they'd both seen it coming. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, inside the Federal Bureau of Hunters, a storm was brewing. Director David Brennan slammed a folder on his desk. The mood in the command center was tense, frustration clinging to every word. They had failed. Jinwoo had slipped through their fingers. Again. "Where's Selner?" Brennan growled. The door opened. Norma Selner entered alongside Assistant Director Michael Connor. "No apologies," Brennan said immediately. "Just tell me what happened." Michael looked to Norma. She took a breath. "Sung Jinwoo. He's not just a hunter," she said quietly. "He's one of the kings." Brennan flinched. "You mean like a national-level hunter?" "No," she said. "I mean something beyond that," she explained. "Most hunters draw their power from the other side, some mysterious, unseen realm." That's what she could always see, the connection. Some of those connections were so intense, the hunters glowed like pillars of light to her. Those were the kings. But Jinwoo? He had no connection, Norma said, her voice shaking. "He is the power." She paused. "When I looked into his soul, there was no light, just endless darkness." "Darkness?" Brennan asked. "You mean he's evil?" "No," she said firmly. "Not evil, just beyond classification. He didn't borrow power. He was power. No channels, no limits, no ceiling. He was the other side." The room went cold. Michael swallowed hard, goosebumps prickling up his arms. "There's no limit to him," Norma added, voice barely a whisper. Brennan nodded slowly. "Thank you," he said at last. Then he stood, abruptly. "Where are you going?" Michael asked. "To basement level 24, Brennan said, stepping into the elevator. "If we can't recruit him with Selner, we'll use something else." As the doors closed, Brennan's voice echoed. "Remember the first S-rank gate? The one that changed everything?" Michael's blood ran cold. He knew exactly what his boss meant. Michael followed Director David Brennan in silence, his thoughts spiraling as they descended deeper underground. He remembered it vividly, the Kamish raid, the world's worst dungeon break, the one that wiped out the entire West Coast and nearly took half of America with it. The creature behind it? A dragon. Not just any dragon. Kamish, the inextinguishable flame. Michael remembered the death toll. Hundreds of elite hunters gone. Whole cities incinerated. Only 5 hunters survived that massacre. Those 5 would go on to be known as national-level hunters. Individuals so powerful, their existence rivaled that of entire countries. And yet, even they had barely made it out alive. Now, standing before the final chamber on basement level 24, Michael watched as Brennan opened a high-security vault. Inside, encased in reinforced glass and guarded like a nuclear warhead, was a runestone, one harvested from Kamish's corpse. Brennan stepped forward slowly, almost reverently. "It's been 8 years since Kamish," he murmured, "and in all that time, not a single mage-class national hunter has appeared." Michael nodded. "You think this is a second chance?" Brennan's eyes never left the runestone. "No, I think Kamish left us one final gift." He didn't say it outright, but they were both thinking it. Sung Jinwoo. Later that night, in Seoul, Jinwoo stood shirtless in front of his bathroom mirror. He examined himself. His body had changed. Since his second awakening, he'd grown taller, leaner, more defined. Even his skin was clearer, his posture straighter. It was subtle, but undeniable. He tilted his head. Is this from the system? One of his passive skills, Will to Survive, healed all damage to his body. Could it be working overtime? Fixing things like fatigue, posture, even acne? He smirked, then peeked out into the living room. His sister Jinah lay on the couch, nose buried in her phone. He grinned. "Hey, what do you think? I look cooler now, right?" She didn't even look up. "You look like a bum." "Rude," he muttered, walking over and pinching her cheek. "Ow! Stop it!" she shrieked, kicking at him. Her shin hit his leg, and she recoiled, wincing in pain. Why are your bones made of metal? Because I'm strong, Jinwoo teased. How'd a bird brain like you get into school anyway? Excuse you, Jinah said proudly. I'm top of my class. Jinwoo raised an eyebrow. Mock exams don't count. They both laughed. But then the mood shifted. I'm forming a guild, Jinwoo said casually. Jinah sat up. Really? What's the name? Thinking solo play guild. She blinked. Solo play? But you fight with shadow soldiers. That's not solo. He scratched his head. Fair point. She smiled. What about Ahjin Guild? Jin? She explained. Ah means I. Jin means to move forward. It also spells my name backward. Jinwoo stared at her. You really named my guild after yourself? She grinned. You're welcome. He laughed. You know what? Not bad. That same night, across town, Hae-In lay buried beneath her blanket like a soldier wounded by embarrassment. Why did I say that? I think so? That was practically a confession. She curled deeper into the sheets, her cheeks burning. She remembered how Jinwoo had looked at her after the test, how he'd asked, "Isn't there another reason you want to join?" She panicked, said she'd think about it. A classic escape. But now, every time she closed her eyes, she could hear her voice whispering, "I think so." She clutched the blanket tighter. Sure, Jinwoo had saved her. Anyone would feel grateful, but she knew it wasn't just that. Then, like a whisper pulled from a fading dream, a different memory bubbled up. Min Byung-gyu, the healer who'd saved her on Jeju Island. His memory had faded, but something about that moment returned with force. She remembered a voice, not his usual calm. There was fear in it, urgency. He had said something. Warn Jinwoo, be careful of the power he holds. Hae-In sat upright. She remembered now. It wasn't Min Byung-gyu himself. It was his shadow. A final message from someone who had peered into the darkness and seen something terrible. Her chest tightened. What exactly had he seen? And why had she forgotten until now? Meanwhile, at the Knights Guild, things weren't much better. Yoontae entered the office briskly, handing over a report to Jongsu. A new gate opened yesterday, Yoontae said. It's not quite S rank, but it's close, Jongsu groaned. We're not equipped for that. If it was S rank, Yoontae added, we'd have no choice but to give it up. But it's A rank. Barely. Jongsu leaned back in his chair, eyes tired. People always underestimate A-rank gates, he muttered. They think they're all the same, but one bad pull, one elite boss, we're down 3 men before the raid even begins. Yoontae nodded. So, do we take it? They both knew the truth. As one of Korea's top 5 guilds, they couldn't afford to back down. But if they stepped into the wrong gate, they might not come back out. The Knights Guild was cornered. Yoontae leaned against the wall, arms crossed. If we don't take this gate, you know who will. Jongsu's eye twitched. The Fame Guild. The very idea made his blood boil. The gate had opened right on their turf, Busan, and now the vultures were circling. Xu knew the strength of his A-rank hunters, knew they could punch above their weight. But the truth hurt. They had no S rank, and that's what mattered. That single missing puzzle piece turned respect into pity. As they debated, young Yerim, the guild's A-rank healer, joined the room. We could team up with another guild, she offered. Jongsu snorted. And broadcast to the whole country that we can't handle our own backyard? Then what about an individual hunter? She said. He raised an eyebrow. You think one person changes everything? She met his gaze, calm and confident. I mean, if it's Sung Jinwoo. Silence. Yoontae nodded slowly. He cleared an A-rank gate alone, on a highway, not even trying to make headlines. For the first time, Jongsu considered it seriously. Bringing Jinwoo in wouldn't just save the raid, it'd skyrocket their public image. He made up his mind. No phones, he said. I'm going in person. The next morning, at the Ahjin Guild office, Jinwoo had made his decision. He sat across from Jinho, his right-hand man and hype squad rolled into one. I've got it, Jinwoo said. Ahjin Guild. Jinho nearly jumped out of his chair. Yes, anything but solo play guild? With the name settled, they just needed one more founding member. Jinho, of course, brought up the obvious candidate, Hae-In. She's perfect, he argued. Young, talented, gorgeous, S rank. But Jinwoo shook his head. Not her. Why? She's not what I'm looking for. Jinho blinked. You're rejecting Korea's top female hunter because she's too qualified? Jinwoo didn't elaborate. What he wanted was someone with a license, no interest in guilds, and above all, someone he could trust completely. Before they could dig into candidates, a knock came at the door. Jinho stood to answer it, half expecting Hae-In again. But standing outside were 3 strangers. One of them stepped forward and introduced himself. Park Jongsu, Guildmaster of the Knights Guild. Beside him stood Yoontae and Jung Yerim. Jung-soo got straight to business, pulling out his phone and playing a video. Jinwoo leaned in. A massive gate filled the screen, glowing, pulsing, throwing off waves of pure mana. Not technically classified as S rank, but visually, it was easily the largest gate Busan had ever seen. Jinwoo raised an eyebrow. This might be interesting. He briefly wondered if Juhee still lived nearby. Maybe she'd treat him to sashimi while he was in town. Yareem, meanwhile, whispered to Yoontae, "Think I could get his autograph?" Before that fantasy got out of hand, Jong-soo cleared his throat. The real problem: the Hunter Association was refusing the Knights Guild a raid permit. Why? No S-rank members. But with Jinwoo on board, the permit was theirs. Jong-soo made his pitch. 20% profit share. Double what most S-ranks earned. Jinwoo didn't even blink. 50%? Jong-soo choked. Not as an individual, Jinwoo clarified. As a guild, the Ahjin Guild. Sweat beaded on Jong-soo's brow. 40-60 split? Jinwoo's face stayed blank. Jong-soo sighed. Fine. 50. But you take down the dungeon boss. Done, Jinwoo said immediately. The Knights Guild master realized then, this kid's no pushover. They discussed the schedule. The raid would begin the next day. Jong-soo offered to take him to Busan by car. Jinwoo declined. Got plans today. I'll meet you there tomorrow. Jong-soo reluctantly agreed. As they packed up to leave, Yoontae caught a flicker of movement. Jinwoo's shadow twitched unnaturally. His eyes narrowed. Did his shadow just move? Jong-soo muttered, "Maybe you're just hungover." Just as they reached the door, Jinwoo's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He stepped into the hall to answer. A warm voice filled his ear. "It's me, honey." "Mom?" It was Kyung-hee, his mother. She'd bought a phone and wanted to hear his voice. A rare smile crept across Jinwoo's face. "Let's have dinner tonight. I'd love that." The next morning at Gwangali Beach, the Knights Guild was assembled. The raid was set to begin. The elite hunters stood in formation, adrenaline in their veins, eyes on the shimmering gate ahead. The only problem? Jinwoo wasn't there yet. 5 minutes to start. Jong-soo paced anxiously. Why didn't I make him come with us yesterday? The pressure built. They needed one man, and the clock was ticking. So what do you do when your entire raid depends on someone who hasn't shown up yet? You wait. Because when that someone is Sung Jinwoo, he doesn't arrive late. He arrives when it matters most. Meanwhile, the clouds over Seoul were gray and low, the kind that hinted at rain but never quite delivered. Jinwoo stepped out of his apartment, dressed casually, simple tee, sneakers, nothing flashy. He paused for a moment, glancing up at the sky. Did Jinah take an umbrella? He chuckled. She probably didn't, but there wasn't time to dwell. He had a job to do. With a thought, he activated Shadow Exchange, instantly switching places with one of his soldiers. And just like that, he stood at Gwangali Beach, where a towering gate loomed like a storm cloud carved into stone. A crowd had gathered, curious civilians, low-tier hunters, media, all kept at bay by a cordon. But Jinwoo's eyes were focused only on the raid team. The Knights Guild had mobilized everything they had. To the left, the hauling team. Right, the mining crew. But what caught his attention was the assault team. 13 A-rank hunters and another 20 B ranks. Jinwoo tilted his head slightly, impressed. For a guild without an S rank, this was a lot of firepower. But it was also a reminder of what they lacked. Raw numbers weren't enough when a gate could flip the world upside down. As Jinwoo walked toward the staging area, curious hunters quickly surrounded him. They fired off questions about his shadow army, about Jeju Island, about his rank, his power, and even his skincare routine. Jinwoo stood there awkwardly, barely answering, until a voice cut through the noise. "Let the man breathe, will you?" It was Young Yerim, healer of the Knights Guild elite squad. She offered her hand with a warm smile. "I'm looking forward to working with you." Jinwoo gave her a nod of gratitude, a rare ally in the noise. Soon after, Jong-soo Park, guildmaster of the Knights Guild, arrived with his usual energy. "Sung Jinwoo, glad you made it." But as Jinwoo greeted him, he noticed something odd. "Did you not tell the team about the raid leadership?" Jong-soo laughed it off. "Was waiting to do it in person." He turned to address the gathered hunters. "As guildmaster, I'll be leading today's raid." There was a flicker of disappointment in the crowd. Several hunters had clearly expected, hoped, Jinwoo would take the lead. Still, Jong-soo continued, "Hunter Sung Jinwoo will be tasked with protecting our rear guard. He'll make sure no one falls behind." A few scoffed under their breath. "We don't need a babysitter," someone muttered. Jong-soo ignored them. "Let's move out." The raid had begun. Meanwhile, across town at Jinah's high school, 3 students grumbled as they were sent on an errand by their art teacher. "This isn't our job," one complained. "Why are we moving statues?" "Because we're at the bottom of the food chain," the third muttered. They unlocked the door to the second art room, which had been converted into a makeshift storage area. Dust filled the air, thick and stale. Inside were stacked canvases, broken easels, and half-shattered statues meant for sketching practice. Then one of them noticed something in the corner. "Guys, what the hell is that?" In the far wall, a gate glowed with soft blue light. It wasn't large, barely the size of a doorway. The tallest boy walked toward it. Relax. Only hunters can go through these things. He reached out and touched the gate's surface. See? Totally saftu. Crack. A monstrous hand shot out. It grabbed his head. There wasn't time to scream. His skull was crushed like a melon. Blood sprayed across the room. The other two students stared in horror as their friend dropped, lifeless, and the gate shattered like glass behind him. From the blackened portal, orcs poured into the world. Towering beasts, muscles rippling, fangs gleaming, eyes filled with primal hunger. Unlike humans, they didn't think. They hunted. These orcs had been hiding, waiting, scouting, masking their scent for a week, embedded in the dungeon space, and now the veil was gone. Their instincts kicked in. Kill, eat, hunt. One orc sniffed the air. The building was full of prey, multiple floors, dozens of students. Their leader growled, "Call the others." His companion obeyed, howling into the broken gate. Then the leader began walking down the hall, the scent of flesh thick in the air. He turned a corner. Two students stood chatting casually by the lockers, unaware. The orc's eyes locked on. His grip tightened on his axe. And then he ran. The students, caught completely off guard, stood frozen in disbelief as the predator closed in on them. At the Hunter Association Emergency Response Center, the atmosphere shifted in an instant. The phone rang. Not the casual kind of ring, the kind that made seasoned receptionists straighten their backs. A woman, mid-30s, veteran of 1,000 routine calls, answered quickly. "Hunter Association, this is Officer Hae-In. How can I help you?" But the voice on the other end didn't sound routine. It was a girl, young, panicked. Her voice cracked and trembled as if she was fighting for every word. Hae-In leaned forward instinctively. I'm at school. I'm hiding. They're out there. They're killing people." Okay, sweetheart. I need you to breathe. You're doing great. What school are you at?" "Gwanghwamun High. They killed my friend. I locked myself in the bathroom." For a few seconds, there was only sobbing on the line. Then, between gasps, came the words that made Hae-In's blood run cold. "They're green, like people, but not. Their skin's green and they have tusks. Orcs." The color drained from Hae-In's face. Not a C-rank beast, not a misclassified summon, a real dungeon break. "Listen to me carefully," she said, trying to steady her voice. "You need to get out of there. You need to run. Right now." But the girl barely had time to gasp when, over the phone, a door was ripped from its hinges, a guttural growl, and then a blood-curdling scream. "No! No! Please!" The scream was cut short. Then, nothing. Hae-In sat frozen, hand still on the phone, her own breath caught in her throat, and somewhere in Seoul, death kept moving. The school had become a slaughterhouse. Less than half the students had escaped. The rest, trapped, hiding, or dead. The orcs, unfazed by the weak resistance, were efficient and merciless. They started on the first floor, clearing each room like a methodical military unit. Blood trailed behind them. Screams above, silence below. In the corridors, kids ran blindly, some crying, some shouting for their friends. A few tried to be brave. It didn't matter. These orcs weren't reckless beasts. They were hunters, bred for war, and now they were loose. One stood over a lifeless student, blood dripping from his axe. He sniffed the air, annoyed. Some prey escaped, but many hadn't. On the top floor, Jinah huddled in a corner of her classroom, surrounded by trembling classmates. The sound of bodies hitting the floor below was unmistakable. Their barricade was laughable, desks and chairs shoved against the doors. A few boys held brooms like spears. One girl quietly recited a prayer. Then the door exploded inward. The chief orc entered, his thick arms smeared with blood, axe already red. Someone screamed. A boy made a run for it, toward the rear exit. He didn't make it. A second orc stepped out of the hallway shadows and buried his axe in the boy's skull. The thud silenced the room. The rest of the students backed into a corner, trapped between death by monster or death by gravity, 6 stories up. Jinah was shaking, but not just with fear. She was praying, "Appa, please." And then, the orc looked at her. Something about her blood, something that felt wrong. The orc's instinct screamed she had to die. He raised his axe, muscles flexed, eyes burning. And that's when the shadow beneath Jinah's feet began to move. It started as smoke, black and cold, and then a figure emerged. A high orc, clad in full obsidian armor. But this wasn't a monster. It was a shadow soldier. It grabbed the chief orc's wrist before the axe could fall. The orc struggled, shocked, but couldn't move. The Black Knight raised both fists and smashed the orc's head so hard it crashed through the ceiling, leaving behind a hole and a spray of dust. The students were speechless. Then more shadows began rising. One by one, elite shadow warriors emerged, lining the room in silence. No words, no delay. just protection. Jinah opened her eyes. Her brother had hurt her. Meanwhile, deep inside the Busan gate, Jinwoo received a new system message. The dungeon was massive, like it had been made for giants. But before he could explore far, a roar echoed from the front. Incoming! Jong-soo, the Knights Guild's guildmaster, screamed as a massive beast lunged out from the darkness. A two-headed ogre, 10 feet tall, eyes glowing red. It charged, swinging a tree-sized club with terrifying speed. Jong-soo threw himself in the way, shouting, "Get behind me!" A shimmering shield formed just in time as the club collided with it, sending out a shockwave. He held his ground, feet sliding back a few inches, but he stood. "Yuntae, now!" Yuntae launched himself off the ground like a spring-loaded missile, blade flashing as he landed directly on the two-headed ogre's massive shoulders. In one brutal arc, he slashed both heads across the eyes. The monster let out a deafening double-layered roar, stumbling backward. "Now!" Yuntae shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. The Knights Guild didn't miss a beat. Frontline hunters surged forward in perfect sync, blades cleaving into the beast's thick, hideous flesh. Behind them, the mages were already mid-chant, unleashing firestorms that exploded across the ogre's back like mini volcanoes. Flames licked at its skin, smoke filling the air, and the stench of burnt monster meat made it hard to breathe. Then, boom! The ogre hit the ground like a falling building. Dead, charred, massive. A clean victory. No casualties, no injuries. But everyone felt it, that weird tension in the air. Jong-soo, ever the sharp one, called for a regroup. "That was weird," he muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. "A twin-headed ogre at the entrance of a dungeon? That's usually the final boss." Jinwoo stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "It's a gravekeeper, which means," Yuntae asked, raising a brow. Jong-soo exhaled. "It's guarding something. Probably a whole army of undead deeper inside." "Cool, cool," Yuntae said sarcastically. "Let's not jinx the raid, boss." But before they could laugh it off, something strange happened. From the deeper end of the tunnel, undead creatures began to appear. Not charging forward like berserk monsters. No, they were retreating, limping backward, faces twisted in panic, like something worse was chasing them. Jinwoo didn't care. He was already distracted. A pulse hit him, hard. His heart raced. His eyes widened. The shadow soldiers he had stationed near Jinah just pinged him. Something was wrong. Very wrong. He didn't hesitate. "I have to go," he said flatly, turning away. "What?" Jong-soo called after him. "You can't just leave in the middle of a..." Jinwoo turned, calm but cold. "I'll leave someone stronger." Then he summoned him. Beru, the Ant King, cloaked in black smoke, emerged from the shadows with that soul-shaking aura that had once paralyzed entire battalions. The reaction was instant. Hunters backed away, eyes wide. Some even stumbled. "That's from the Jeju Island raid," one whispered. Jinwoo didn't flinch. "Beru will lead the vanguard. I'm leaving you 20 soldiers. That'll be enough." Yerim, still catching her breath from the ogre battle, couldn't believe it. "You're seriously leaving now? After unleashing that?" Jinwoo's gaze cut through her like ice. "If you don't want them here, I can take them back. But when this raid fails, it's on the Knights Guild, not me." Silence. Even Jong-soo backed off. "All right, understood." Jinwoo clenched his fists. Still over an hour until Shadow Exchange cools down. Damn it. He didn't wait, didn't explain. He vanished into the tunnel. Did he really just leave? Tae asked, half stunned, half impressed. But Jinwoo was already on the move, his body radiating fury. As he sprinted through the dungeon corridors, undead beasts blocked his path, and then knelt, bowing. They recognized him, not as prey, but as their king. Jinwoo barely noticed. He dismissed his dagger into inventory and broke into a full sprint. At the end of the path, he called out in a sharp voice, "Kaizul!" The sky outside the dungeon split open. A black wyvern, wings steaming with shadow energy, materialized. The crowd outside the gate gasped. "Wait, is that Hunter Sung? Why is he leaving?" He didn't answer. Jinwoo jumped onto Kaizul's back and pointed forward. "To Jinah, now!" Kaizul let out a thunderous roar and took off, wings tearing through the sky as they soared toward Seoul. Back at the school, the orc's skull exploded like a watermelon under a hammer. The creature dropped to the floor, lifeless. Around it, the high orcs summoned from Jinwoo's shadows stood tall, silent, watching. The terrified students blinked, processing. They didn't know whether to scream or clap. Who just saved us? The other two orcs, still alive, tried to run, but the high orcs caught them. They didn't scream. They didn't fight. They knew it was over. 2 sickening crunches followed, and the bodies dropped. Jinah and her classmates stood in stunned silence. Only then did they realize they weren't alone. They'd been protected, guarded, not by people, not by magic, but by something darker and stronger. Still trembling, Jinah whispered, "Where's my brother?" No answer. The high orcs didn't move, didn't let her go, didn't even blink. They knew what was still coming. And then, thud. Heavy footsteps echoed in the stairwell, coming closer, louder, slower. not just one. Something else was on its way. The air shifted, heavy, charged, like the world itself was holding its breath. And then it happened. A gate cracked open deep within the dungeon, and out came a throne. Massive, ancient, as if the entire place had been built just to hold it. The final seal had broken. From the shadows surrounding that throne stepped out a towering orc, taller than any they'd seen, muscles carved like stone, tattoos crawling across his body like the history of war itself. This wasn't just another brute. This was Groktar, chieftain of the Crimson Blade tribe, and the master of this dungeon. He didn't walk out quietly. He announced himself with the kind of arrogance that only comes from killing thousands. Every scar on his skin told a story. Every mark was a memory of someone who'd challenged him and lost. His subordinate rushed to his side, panic in his voice. "Some of our own high orcs. They're helping the humans." Groktar didn't flinch. "How many?" "3," came the answer. A low, cruel grin stretched across the warlord's face. "Pathetic." He hefted his monstrous axe over one shoulder, his eyes glowing with bloodlust. "Let's go remind them who really owns this place." Outside the classroom, orcs that had been retreating heard Groktar's name and erupted into cheers. Their chieftain was here. The tide had turned, or so they thought. Groktar didn't waste time. He moved like smoke, faster than anything his size should have been able to. The high orcs guarding Jinah rushed him, blades drawn. Didn't matter. He ducked the first, parried the second, and spun with the grace of a predator. His curved blade flashed, slashing through his enemies. They fell, and then they got back up. Groktar's grin faded. "What is this?" he muttered, narrowing his eyes. No matter how many times he cut them down, they kept rising, healing, reforming. Like death didn't apply to them. Was it a spell? Some cursed magic? It didn't matter. He'd kill them all if he had to. But then, that voice came back. The one in his head. Whispers. Commands. "Kill the girl." He gritted his teeth. The headache throbbed behind his eyes. But the voice had a point. If this was a spell, it had a source. His eyes scanned the room, and then he saw her. Jinah, trembling, hiding behind the regenerating high orcs. But Groktar wasn't looking at fear. He was looking at connection. There was something linking her to these creatures, and he was sure of it now. She was the shaman, the control center. "All units, get the girl." One orc lunged toward Jinah. The high orcs moved to intercept, but Groktar had already prepared for that. His forces surrounded them, pounced, and held them down long enough to keep them away. It worked. Jinwoo's little sister was left wide open. That's when it happened. A nasty-looking orc, big and ugly as hell, grabbed her by the head. Sneering, he muttered how he always knew it was her. Said he could smell her magic from a mile away. He was just about to finish her off when he froze. He could feel something bad, something coming. His hands started shaking so bad he couldn't even hold on to her anymore. He let her drop like dead weight. Her friend bolted over, helping her up. Panic all over her face. "You okay?" Meanwhile, the orc's gut twisted in terror. And then, boom. An explosion rocked the place. Dust everywhere, people coughing, chaos. And through the smoke, he stepped in. He knelt next to his sister, gently placing his hand on her head. His voice low, steady. "It's okay now, you're safe." Every orc in the room? They backed the hell up. Even their leader, Gruer of the Red Knives, tried to puff up and introduce himself. Didn't even get the words out. Jinwoo shot him a look, lifted a finger and said coldly, "Shut up. Wait your turn." Gruer shut right the hell up. Jinwoo hugged his sister close, whispering an apology for being late. Then he turned, asking the other students if they were okay. A few nodded. Sonia, standing nearby, tried to sound brave. I'm fine." But then she noticed it. The aura coming off Jinwoo. It wasn't just strong, it was terrifying. And when Jinwoo saw the red bruise on his sister's cheek, left by that orc's filthy hand, something snapped inside him. Igris. His voice was like ice. His shadow knight appeared instantly, bowing his head. "Protect my sister," Jinwoo ordered. "Get the kids out of here." More shadow soldiers materialized, picking up the injured students and carrying them toward the dragon waiting outside. Meanwhile, the orcs? Yeah, they tried to move. Tried to make a break for it. Bad idea. "You move," Jinwoo warned. "You die." One idiot orc charged anyway, swinging a club the size of a tree trunk. Jinwoo didn't even flinch. He caught the club with 2 fingers. Snap! The orc howled like a dying animal, and before you could blink, Jinwoo had slammed him into the ground, hard enough to crack the concrete. One stomp, finished. The other 2 orcs tried to bolt. Jinwoo just raised his hand. Ruler's authority. Both orcs shot up into the air like puppets on strings, and when he closed his fists, they turned into a bloody mess. Done. The rest of the orcs panicked, screaming, charging all at once. Didn't matter. Jinwoo moved through them like a force of nature, tearing through bodies with his bare damn hands. In seconds, the room was littered with corpses. Only one was left standing. Gruer, shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. Jinwoo walked up, grabbed the bastard by the head, and smashed him against the wall. Then he noticed something even worse. The halls beyond the corridor littered with students, injured, bleeding. He turned to another hall. Same thing. His eyes darkened. "Why are you killing people?" he demanded. Gruer whimpered, mumbling some half-crazed excuse about hearing voices telling him to kill. "What about me?" Jinwoo asked quietly. "You want to kill me too?" Gruer broke down, crying, begging for mercy. In that moment, Jinwoo realized, to them he wasn't even human. He was something worse. His chaos blade materialized in his hand. "No point in talking anymore," Jinwoo said coldly. "I'll spare you, but don't expect it to be painless." Meanwhile, over in the dungeon where the Night Guild was raiding, things weren't exactly peachy either. One healer tugged at a giant ant's leg, yelling, "Hey, you got any idea how much vampire soul crystals are worth? Don't just eat them." The ant didn't even care. Kept chomping on vampires like it was an all-you-can-eat buffet. Annoyed, the healer yanked again, but accidentally scraped her arm. Before she could even yelp properly, the ant turned around, extended a huge claw, and in 1 second flat, her wound healed. She blinked. Healing magic? The girl realized, dumbfounded. This shadow ant's healing skills are better than mine, and I'm supposed to be the healer. Just another day